fans, hello you absolute lovelies. Let's talk all about it. Welcome to Derry, episode 4, a show which, in my opinion, gets better with each and every episode, and this episode was no exception. This episode was full of great arcs for the parents, great arcs for the kids, and those worlds starting to intertwine in very interesting ways. It was full of lots of terror in the school, in the woods, like a lot of very fun archetypal settings, and most of all, it was full of lots and lots of Pennywise lore and things I'd heard about anecdotally from the Stephen King books that I'd never seen, all while blending in other worlds of Stephen King in this one very terrifying show, which managed to pull the narrative in and keep us scared and world build in a really fun way. Going to be talking about lots and lots of spoilers for this episode. Please, if you're new to this page, hit that subscription bell. Going to be diving into spoilers here, but I cover lots of stuff spoiler and spoiler free. I cover movies, I cover TV shows, I cover comic books, all right here on this page, and I'm covering this show every week. So if you like any of that stuff, subscription bell. Also, press like on this video. It helps the algorithm. And most of all, let's have a conversation about this show. I think Welcome to Derry is oh so very special, and it's really cool as we reach the halfway point here with episode 4 out of 8 to see a lot of people discovering the show, which I am very glad is weekly because we get to have these conversations. It gets to have these cliffhangers. It's not just one 8-hour movie. It actually gets to build and grow, and that's the point of Pennywise, is the fear that it instills on you as a marinade, as a seasoning, allows the thing to build and grow and then get more scary. And the show and its release model allows for that very thing. Let's talk about 4 specifically. So I love that Halloran is so capable as a psychic, but we've only kind of gotten scratches at it. We haven't actually seen his power set until this episode, and that sequence with his hands and fingers and all that was so intense, setting up a very beautiful final act of the show, but teasing it throughout. I love that this episode opens with the parents navigating what's happening to their kids, and for once the kids actually believing them. The parents actually believing the kids. The cops don't, of course, but it's really cool to see a trope subverted by having the parents believe the kids in any way whatsoever, especially our core family. And it's really cool to see the dad, the major in the military, navigating what it's like to actually believe his kid as opposed to the usual dismissiveness. I love that his wife is actively trying to use her experience down south to help out someone else, and then that all ties into the kids knowing each other. I really think it's doing a great job of relationships feeling real and lived in, and making the relationship to Derry part of those relationships. All of this revolves around Derry, and whether or not that's the mystical side or the Native American side or the military side, Derry itself is the show. The show is called Welcome to Derry, and it's managing to bring in real racism with real problems that America has had in Native American culture, in military culture, in black culture, all these different things, but making it into one crazy narrative about trauma and overcoming that, and all of this with families that feel very real, and it's just so very impressive. All while adding to Pennywise lore. I had heard that Stephen King had an alien kind of origin for this, and it's teased and talked about a little bit in It Chapter 2, if memory serves. I haven't seen that movie in quite a while, but I'd heard there was so much more to it in the book. It is so cool to have 2 movies from Andy Muschietti that are so much of that book and beautifully bring it to life. The first one is one of my favorite horror movies ever. I like the second one, but it's not quite the first one for me. And now with this show in long form, getting almost 8 hours more of it, we get to build the backstory retroactively and play with time, so we see stuff set up. Now, from what I've heard about the show, each season is going to be a different decade. I love that we're seeing a lot of mirroring of It Chapter 1 and 2, with seeing the young version of a character, then seeing the adult version or even older version of the character through time. We've seen a lot of paralleling of flashbacks and then modern day being the 60s, and that mirrors a lot of what It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 did, but it also means, I'm curious, with people surviving, if we get a season 2, if Pennywise will get to interact like with the Native American community and what that looks like, because in this episode we got all of that backstory of building that fence, of what the Western Woods mean, of what it is they've been dealing with all this time. We're building up like this big apparatus to save them, and obviously that gets disrupted. It gets disrupted the first time with the frontiersmen messing up the town. It gets disrupted again with another bunch of white folk coming in the form of the military and disrupting the town all over again, always waking up Pennywise, the same type of people just shaking stuff up and causing problems, while the locals, the people that are actually from there, are trying to protect it. So I think that's really cool mirroring, because in the past we see it with the Native Americans. In the present, we see it with everyone dealing with the military, disrupting things. And we've got different sets of families all forgetting just enough to have a reason to stay. I've always thought that mythology was really cool of the forgetting just enough, and we get to see it in this episode with that conversation with that poor girl that's going to end up back in the madhouse. That poor girl that has the conversation about what it means, reminding her friend, the adult, I forget her context of who she's related to and how she relates, but that person she knew that did have people go missing in her childhood, that did go through all that, but hadn't thought of it, because that's the power of Pennywise, how people stay in this town. And it's really cool to see that utilized in this really special way. Other highlights of the episode for me, beyond the incredible Halloran psychic scene, or I love the fishing scene and how terrifying that was, like having his own dad be the thing he's afraid of, and that mirroring the military nature of, a military dad might be really intense, might be really strict, might be scary, and that's the thing he fears most. Not just his dad, but like disappointing his dad and not being enough, and the kid's been trying so hard. So I love that we get to see what each person's afraid of, and in that case it's his own father and losing his father. He was afraid of the dad in that specific way, of the burns and when the plane went down. He's afraid of his dad, but also of losing his dad. And there's so much wrapped into that one scene. And again, I love that his dad believes him, subverting a lot of tropes. And that scene at the end of Pennywise actually outside the window, and that tying into the astronomy. I'd totally forgotten about the telescope. This show has so many good Chekhov's guns of things that are going to get utilized really well. And I thought that was exceptional. The scene in the school is so traumatizing. The parasite setup was genius, and I thought it was going to be something about, the nature of Pennywise being parasitic, but the actual visual of the eyes expanding and all of that horror, and then that girl sawing her own face off, and that poor girl that just doesn't want to go back to the madhouse, doing everything she could, and of course that's how it's going to look. She's got a history. The girl's been bullying her. She was caught the most red-handed. There's such good detail work here, all building more fear, all building this trauma. And I love this new tool of the Xanax, or whatever the 60s equivalent of amphetamines was then, to, curb that fear and to just get through something. And I'm curious how that comes into the next episode. It's done such a good job making us care about the kids, especially in the beginning. I think by default, like the Losers Club is something we care about, but now caring more and more about the parents because of how good they are, how much they care, how invested they are, caring more and more about what the military is actually doing outside of the military themselves. We haven't really gotten a lot of time with individuals outside of Halloran, but I assume we will. I really liked that last episode we got to see a little bit of Remar's character. Francis, I think is his name. Remar's character as a kid and an adult, that endears us to him some, but how's it going to play out going forward? And it looks like next episode, there was a little mid-season trailer, we're going to get a lot of Pennywise. So it looks like next week is going to be Pennywise heavy. Things are going to get into the second half of the show. Things are going to escalate into the third act. Everything is like a powder keg right now. And one of my favorite things is this show always ends so well for week to week. We've got 7 days now to wait, but it lands on the house. And I love that it sets up this tapestry of protection of what to look for, and then our last shot is the house. And that almost works better than a Pennywise reveal, because I like that we got Pennywise a bit teased in 3. We see him even a little bit more in 4, but it didn't end on a full Pennywise shot yet. We get that for the second half of the show, but we get the house, which is so iconic, which is so memorable. It's just so good at planting seeds and making this all work, and it's so good at making us care about the realities of the world while not feeling like it's pandering or being too heavy-handed. It's really good at navigating serious subject matter while being a horror show, while being traumatic and having characters that feel real, while making you care about two different age groups equally. I don't know, I'm just so impressed with the writing and the directing, and the show is a blast. So for me, this was my favorite episode so far. It has gotten better every week for me. Personally, I like 2 more than 1, 3 more than 2, and 4 more than 3, so this is my favorite. I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. Was this your favorite episode of Welcome to Derry as well? What do you think is going to happen in that house? What do you think is going to happen next week? How do you think Pennywise is going to get more strength? What do you think happens to everyone? What's the arc you're enjoying most? Just have a conversation with me down below. Leave a like while you're pressing buttons, and subscribe if you're not already. I will see you next week for more Welcome to Derry with episode 5, Pennywise heavy it looks like, and I'll see you even sooner with, we got Wicked non-spoiler review dropping tomorrow. We got Wicked full spoilers dropping on Friday. In between, we've got some good old comic stuff and more. So subscribe, etc. Much love. I'll see you soon. What a show.